Welcome back, everybody, to WWTA News. Welcome back. I'm glad you all returned for another episode because we've got some interesting things to get into. We do. Aside from having some coffee, but we've got some interesting things to get into. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right in, find out what's going on. What's going on is JP Morgan to acquire troubled First Republic Bank. The American banking giant JP Morgan Chase is set to acquire all the assets of First Republic Bank after early efforts to rescue it failed. JP Morgan, along with multiple other banks, submitted a bid to acquire the assets of troubled FRC on April 29th. Whoa, wait a minute. So, First Republic Bank failed, obviously. And I'm just gonna whatever. We're just gonna roll with this. Check this out. So if we go back in time, we remember these banks were getting these overnight bailouts. It was talked about heavy in the news, and then no more talk about it, right? Well, what happened? The banks had to pay those debt bonds, those loans back, and they failed to do so. So if you failed to do so, then the person that you owe that money to can then take those assets, right? So look at this. When you go buy a car and you fail to pay it, they repo it. Then it sits at the bank until they put it on the market for sale or auction it off. Okay, it's the same thing with a foreclosed home to a bank. They'll auction it off, okay? Y'all getting this? So if the Fed were the ones who bailed these banks out and then these banks failed to pay their debts, right? Then who collected on that bank? Who collected on First Republic Bank? Who collected on First Republic Bank? Who bailed them out? Now, that question there, let's ask the next question. If that's the case, how many more banks did the Fed bail out that are going to fail to pay their debt contracts back, right? That's a good question. Y'all think about that. But let's continue. It goes on to say that JP Morgan, along with other banks, bid on the assets. An auction maybe? And they bid, right? I wouldn't mind collecting those debts. I'll take those contracts. The California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation closed FRC on May 1st and entered into an agreement with the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation as receiver. The FDIC then entered into a purchase and assumption agreement with JP Morgan Chase Bank to protect the depositors. Right? So we know the California Department of Financial Protection is something that was newly created. And it's to protect the depositors because the depositors are putting their money in the bank, don't want to have their money snatched up and taken because this bank failed. So that's why these things are created. JP Morgan will assume all assets of First Republic Bank, including uninsured deposits as well. So non-FDIC deposits. So, the FDIC protects up to like 100,000 or something. They got some number, some arbitrary number, and they protect that much. So even the uninsured deposits, JP Morgan collects on those assets as well. And of course, that means anything they have in the bank, including their money. FRC currently have $229.1 billion worth of assets. Had 103.9 billion in deposits. Had. As part of the transfer, 84 locations of First Republic Bank in 8 states will reopen as JP Morgan Chase Bank. Wow. Now, on the books for JP Morgan, that's massive. I mean, it's JP Morgan Chase, so I mean, they've already got a lot on the books, but it's like taking in now 9/10 of the law is always possession, right? So when you got your money in a bank, 9 tenths of the law is possession. I mean, they tell you, oh, you're protected, nobody will do that to you, but 9 tenths of the law is always possession. Things happen. And then stuff that you no longer possess belonging to someone else in their hands can, become theirs. So that's scary as it is. But to see what happens here is that 229 billion worth of assets and 103 billion in deposits, cash, right? Deposited to that bank. Now, because that bank failed, goes to JP Morgan Chase. Now, who knows whether you like JP Morgan, Chase Bank or not, doesn't matter. Now your money is under their hands, right? It's now belonging to them. These banks are going to reopen as JP Morgan Chase. Now your assets, right? Now, I mean, some people might not have a problem. Some people might have a problem, and they'll do things based on that. But nonetheless, how many more bank failures do you think are around the corner, right? Just think about that. Moving along, Nigeria's SEC moles allowing tokenized equity, property, but not crypto. Nigeria's Securities and Exchange Commission is considering allowing tokenized coin offerings backed by equity, debt, or property, but not crypto, which makes sense. Crypto fluctuates in value up and down. You know what I'm saying? And equity, right? The equity in something is up there unless, the value of whatever that is that's holding equity decreases, which doesn't really happen that often. And debt, we know debt bonds are contracts which, secured or unsecured. Usually they're going to be paid off. There's times when they don't. And property, we know with property, property has its value based on its use as well. But not crypto. Again, crypto is a volatile thing, goes up and down in value, right? It's uncontrollable. But it goes on to say on licensed digital asset exchanges. So Nigeria's SEC are thinking about making these things possible. Coming to the United States. It's coming. I know we watched this hype with Gary Gensler and all these little questions they ask him and all things that he says, which, behind the scenes, it's all about moving money and making money, right? The regulator is also processing applications for digital exchanges on a trial basis, intending them to undergo 1 year of regulatory incubation, with limited services offered and under SEC monitoring to determine the firm's fitness to provide services. So, of course, some of the things that we think about coming down the pipeline is the tokenization of assets, right? It's coming. It's been in the talks for a long time, but it simplifies everything. You just start thinking about, we'll deal with that another time, but this is something that's been talked about for a long time, and we're going to see it. As you're seeing these things come up now, you're going to see it in the future as well in practice, right? It's coming. It's coming, right? According to the report, the SEC will not start registering digital asset exchanges until it reaches an agreement with the nation's central bank, which has blocked local financial institutions from interacting with crypto service providers. Before the central bank doubled down on its restrictive rule, Nigeria was one of the fastest crypto adopters in the region. So there's a little fall, like, hey, we're going to hold up. We're not just going to jump in and rush. We're going to do some more thinking. But I don't think it's so much thinking as it is at the right time, because all these other talks are happening, all these other things are happening. I just don't think they're rushing everything out. I think that everything's set to happen in a time of succession. So we're just watching it. So this is a story we'll keep in our minds as we see more stories pop up in the coming weeks, months, I'd say months at the most, before these things come into full use. Says despite central bank's resistance, there have been attempts to include crypto in the scope of regulations, with a new bill in the works that could recognize crypto as capital for investment, right? I mean, look, whether it happens or not, that's still important, but nonetheless, we should be more concerned about them bringing the assets on to the blockchain, because that's major for the value of crypto. All right, China Bank partners with QNB to enable remittance using Ripple's online on-demand liquidity. China Bank, a Philippine banking institution, has partnered with Qatar National Bank to enable a direct transfer of funds through the RippleNet payment technology from Qatar to the Philippines. China Bank has said that the partnership overarching goal is to better serve Filipinos, especially who have been sent to work abroad after COVID-19. Both banks may allow immediate XRP payments via Ripple's on demand liquidity, eliminating the need for time consuming and expensive correspondent banking arrangements. The China Bank Start app for smartphones allows clients to easily start an OKS account with no minimum deposit, as stated in the introduction. QNB is Ripple's most important partner in the Middle East and North Africa as part of its strategy to rapidly enhance cross border payments and remittance services. The bank announced cooperation with Ripple in 2021. Now, I'm not riding coattails, but I saw this article and I was like, that's pretty interesting because we know these ain't the only people doing that. I know a lot of talk around town, XRP and all this, da 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 da. It is what it is. But when you see stories like this, it's like, but they're still doing this and they're still doing that. So who really cares what the SEC in the United States does? Don't nobody care. Look what they're doing here. All right. Ripple's on-demand liquidity technology facilitates instantaneous international transactions by means of digital assets like XRP. To use it, you must first convert your money into XRP and then use that XRP to buy any currency you need. So then, therefore, it'll run across those rails, right? And so, for instance, let's say there's a USDC version for XRP, then you buy something like that, and then you move it on the XRP rails. That's kind of just summing up how these things work, and it's not just stuff like that's just how it works. You know what I'm saying? With pretty much anything. But anyways, interesting. Keep our eyes on this. All right, I think it's gonna be the last article. So magazine, Cointelegraph, they've got a few things in here I thought were very interesting. So we're gonna jump through these real quick. Circle launched the cross-chain USDC transfer protocol. It says Circle launched a cross-chain protocol that enables USDC transfers between the Ethereum and Avalanche blockchains. The protocol works by burning the selected amount of native USDC on the source chain and minting an equivalent amount of new USDC on the intended destination chain. Now, Circle, of course, we're talking about Coinbase, and Coinbase uses the United States dollar coin on the Ethereum network. Avalanche is like a second layer, which helps reduce the price and speed and all this other stuff. So it basically makes it a little bit better. So that's all they're talking about here. But it goes on to say the protocol essentially makes USDC transfers between the two networks faster and more user friendly. As prior to its launch, people had to use third party bridges or a Circle partner to facilitate transfers between the two networks. Additional support for Solana and other blockchains will be added later in 2023. And obviously, you can get United States dollar coin on Solana's network, which runs faster and is cheaper. I'm not a big fan of Ethereum, but that's like everybody uses that, but still it's costly. And then you got to go through all these different layers of it to reduce costs. So it's just stupid, whatever. I think it's dumb, but I'm nobody important. All right, stablecoin payments. Visa shares plans for ambitious crypto product. Kai Sheffield, the head of crypto at Visa, announced a new cryptocurrency related project on April 24th, focused on stablecoin payments. Details are sparse at this stage. However, Sheffield shared a job listing relating to the project, with the description noting that the Visa crypto team is building the next generation of products to facilitate commerce in everyone's digital and mobile lives. So we're talking about your phone. The job listing is seeking candidates with a good understanding of layer 1 and layer 2 solutions. So we're talking Ethereum, alongside experience with writing smart contracts using the programming language Solidity. We are talking Ethereum, among other things. We're talking Ethereum. Again, I'm not a fan of it, but for those of you who are fans of it, hey man, that right? Everybody's trying to get on it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just it's things are so much simpler when you use other blockchains like Stellar Lumens, XRP. It's just very simple. I know, XRP, they do smart contracts via Flare and I believe Songbird, but I know Flare was created so they could get smart contracts out there. So there's other things that are so much better and more efficient than Ethereum. I'm just saying. But anyways, I don't know. That's it. I'm gonna close there. That was a lot of information. The video is probably long. I hope wasn't too long. I hope you guys all got through it and you got some information that you needed. Other than that, I'll catch you all in the next episode.